Hi, today we're going to learn how to manually nest parts in ToolShop so we can make efficient use of material. To do this, I'm going to open the same file we used in the last tutorial. I'll simply open it as we did previously. So there we have all of the parts. Remember from the last tutorial that we set ToolShop up to automatically perform the cleanup and combine functions on import. As you can see, there are no open path indicators and all of the internal shapes are red, indicating that they are a child of the external parent shape. We can easily select parts and drag them, as we've learned previously. You can do this by either clicking on the lines of the shape, or you can drag a box around the part. Once you have selected a part, you can drag it by the center handle. If you want to constrain the part to move vertically or horizontally, or at a 45-degree angle, then simply hold down the Shift key while you're dragging it. This activates the orthogonal mode. Just remember, a good way to remember this is that Shift and straight both start with S. If you want to rotate the part, then you simply drag the rotation handle. In the same way, you can also hold down the Shift key while rotating the part, and it will be constrained to 45-degree increments. Using these tools, you can arrange the parts on the sheet to make better use of the material. But surely there's a better way? Let's take it one step further. ToolShop has a really cool feature called the manual nesting tool. You'll find the manual nesting tool right here on the layout toolbar. Notice that there are two settings beside the manual nesting button. These are to control the gap between parts and the margin around the perimeter of the sheet. We know that we'll be using a 6mm router bit for this job, so we'll set the gap at 10mm. Let's also give the job a 10mm margin around the edge of the sheet. When I activate the manual nesting function, you'll see that the button toggles on, and you'll see a tick on it to show that the function is active. To use the manual nesting function, simply click a shape and drag it into place. Manual nesting behaves much the same as the regular select tool, with a couple of big differences. When you drag a part with the manual nesting function active, you will not be able to drag a part within the margin allowance that we set before. In this case, it's 10mm or around 0.4 of an inch. Once you position the first part, you can continue to drag and rotate other parts so they fit around it. Notice that the gap between parts is maintained according to the gap setting above. Remember, you can use the Shift key to restrict the rotation increments to 45 degrees. This may be useful if you need the part to be cut in a certain orientation because of grain in the material or some other reason. Notice that there are also 4 arrows on the toolbar. Clicking one of these buttons will move a part as far as it can go in that direction, while still obeying the gap and margin settings. If you select a part with the manual nest tool, then hold the Shift key down. You can also use the arrows on your keyboard to do the same thing. This makes it very fast to manipulate a lot of parts. I'll skip forwards to the end of the sheet. Notice that we have run out of space, but we still have some parts left over. Let's add another sheet to the job. First, I'll need to exit the manual nesting tool by toggling the button off. On the toolbar, you will see the current sheet of material listed in the drop-down list. All I need to do is click the Add Sheet button to the right of the material description. ToolShop will bring up the material selection box with the current material selected by default. You can enter a custom remnant size here, or just click OK to add a second identical sheet to the job. I can change between sheets from the drop-down list at the top. A little shortcut I use is to hover the mouse over the material description and then scroll the mouse wheel. This quickly scrolls through the available sheets. But how do I get the parts to the second sheet? First of all, select the leftover parts and right-click. In the pop-up menu, we can use the Move to Sheet option. Simply select the second sheet and the parts will jump to that sheet. You can then go back to that sheet and continue to manually nest the parts. When it's time to output the job to the CNC machine, ToolShop will create an individual G-code file for each sheet. So that's how you use the manual nest functions in ToolShop. We hope you're really starting to get an idea of how to use ToolShop and its simple but powerful features. Come back next time to learn how to use the automatic nesting function.